In that case, we're going to transition you guys over to some fantasy discussion, which is why you all came to our show in the first place, because we are the most woke and also the most aware of all fantasy establishments out there, besides the fantasy footballers. The fantasy footballers are probably better than us. I'm not going to lie.
I like those guys.
Those guys are pretty damn good.
They're pretty woke, too, when you think about it.
They're very woke,
They're very
and
woke.
they're very informative, which is the most important part. All of their segments they do. So I gotta say, those guys are phenomenal. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just YouTube fantasy footballers. Also subscribe here before you do that, so that way you don't leave our channel, because we matter the most. All right, so guys, I'm gonna talk about a little bit today. We're going into our draft here in the next what is it? How many days away are we? 10 days away from our draft, right?
Yeah.
10, 11 days
10,
from
11.
our draft, which is probably most of your drafts out there. So we will have a show next week. By the way, we're doing a very live mock draft. On the show right here in front of everyone, where we are picking from different spots, and we'll be making our selections and then letting you out there in the audience know what selections we've made and why we made them. So something to think about going into next week. But for now, I'm going to also give you guys some insight on some guys we have in mind that are maybe overvalued or undervalued going into your draft at home. So for me, I want to start it off with some overvalued guys. And so if we can get to that first, I want to get to our sleepers, which is always the most fun part of the show. So I'm going to give you the bad news before I give you the good news. So my bad news is still, once again, you all should know this, Joe Mixon is overvalued. Once again, because he's overvalued every single year. So he's right now currently ranked as 21 on the ADP list. Do not fall for the trap. I mean, he hasn't finished in the top nine overall as a running back ever in his career. So keep that in mind. And also, I mean, you're going to look at the basically touchdown production over the course of his career has never reached over 10 in one season. So there's also injury concerns about Joe Mixon, and I understand we are all excited about Joe Burrow, and maybe that's going to make a difference on this roster and the way he performs. Could to a degree, but if you're looking at Joe Burrow, he's currently going at the end of your second round. Do not waste your second round pick on Joe Mixon.
So would you wait and hold out for was it Samaje Perine, the backup running back?
No, I'm not.
No,
we're not.
You
doing
didn't even touch anything until after the fifth.
Is it Samaje Perine?
Samaje
Perine?
Perine, yeah.
No, he sucks, Tanner.
All right.
So
He's awesome.
he's
I'll draft
Tanner.
him.
Do you remember the game when Samaje Perine had 400 yards rushing against KU?
Oh, Oklahoma guy. Yeah, I'm gonna pass. I'm not gonna.
You
remember.
don't want to.
I don't want to
But
remember.
Tanner,
that.
your own team gave up 400 yards rushing to Samaje Perine.
That was out of the conference formerly known as the Big 12.
We're
formerly known as Big 12.
We're a little rough in football, guys. It's all right.
Tanner, you forgot the guy that set the all-time rushing record against Kansas.
Yeah, I forget the bad stuff, so I forget the last few
And he
seasons.
goes to the NFL
Since
and
2008.
How do you feel about Kansas allowing a guy who sucks in the NFL to then set the record for college football against your team?
Everybody's good at college. Look at Tebow. Tebow was good. He's probably the best player to come out.
Just letting you know. I mean,
And now he's bad.
Well, I'll give you some credit, Tanner, because shortly it was broken by Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
So Melvin Gordon ended up breaking the record like a week later. But regardless, it was like 430-something yards. I don't know. But anyways, guys, all I'm saying is do not touch Joe Mixon. Some people think, oh, he's going to bounce back because Burrow's healthy and they get drafted Jamar Chase and offense and this and that. No. Don't do it. Don't
It's the
touch him.
Bengals.
Do
It's
not.
the Bengals.
Correct. It's the Bengals. Do not touch his dick. Leave it fucking alone. Let it stay limp. Move on to a bigger dick. Jason, go.
All right. Couple guys that are overvalued, in my humble opinion, which also so happens to be a fact. You've got Mike Evans of the Buccaneers and Chris Godwin. So they're sitting right close to each other. Mike Evans, ADP 35.9, Chris Godwin 35.7. The reason I have them overvalued is because too many mouths to feed in Tampa Bay. Brady's got Antonio Brown, second year in the offense. He's got Gronk. He's got Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. Now he's got Gio Bernard. A lot of mouths to feed. And as much as I love Chris Godwin and Mike Evans as players, those are not two guys you're going to be able to depend on week to week in fantasy football. So I think they are slightly overvalued. And, you got to go elsewhere if you're going with your 35th overall pick.
I like that, actually, because, you got a full offseason of Antonio Brown and Tom Brady practicing together. Yeah, I'd
He
stay
could
away
be the
from
number
those two.
one.
Yeah,
He
that's
could
what
be
I'm
the number
saying.
one.
I'm saying right now, there's a lot of talk with him and Tom Brady. So I
would feel
agree.
horrible for Godwin because Godwin also has some of the best hands in the NFL. Like his catch percentage is amazing. Like he does not drop passes almost ever, and to be replaced by Antonio Brown would be so
Godwin
frustrating.
also joined the team back up without getting a huge, massive deal, which he could have got anywhere else. So that's also a horrible thing for Godwin, but maybe, I don't know.
It's not horrible, Tanner. You know why? Because it's all about rings. How many rings can you accumulate?
Stats, money. We'll see. All right, guys. So mine's going to be an unpopular opinion, but stay away from T.J. Hawkinson, Detroit Lions tight end, ADP 50.1. No. Hang on, guys. Hang on. I got some stuff for you here. We're going to talk about this.
Well, we're surprised, Tanner. We thought you were going to go opposite.
See, you think I would go TJ at some point,
Yeah.
but you don't. You don't go TJ.
Okay.
So real quick here. So the tight ends in the middle of the pack, so rounds between 4 through 9, have always struggled throughout the season. So that's actually a fact. So dating back to 2010, we have seen a total of 72 tight ends selected in the rounds 5 through 7, and of those 72.1 delivered their fantasy managers a crappy season, essentially. The one guy to actually give you a season since then is George Kittle, 2017. He's the one guy between those rounds that actually did something. And since then, I mean, anybody else, you can't even touch him. So don't draft a tight end between those rounds. As far as also looking at Goff as well, so new quarterback, right? It's not Stafford throwing in the guy. Jared Goff, 2019, threw to the tight end 149 times total. That's targets. That was just barely above Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods' targets individually. 2020, threw to tight ends 122 times total, compared to Cooper Kupp's 124 targets individually and Robert Woods 129 individually. The guy doesn't throw to tight ends. It was a crappy team in 2020. We all know that. We all saw that. He doesn't go to the check down. He's throwing it deep or he's throwing it off to the back. So avoid TJ at that point. I'd say wait, definitely wait maybe 3 rounds. And if he's still there, grab him. But I would not touch him at 50.
Yeah, and while we're trashing the Lions, why don't you go ahead and throw in Deandre Swift into that argument?
You're going to avoid him too, right?
Yeah, we're not drafting
man.
any Lions players on this show.
We did talk about that earlier today, Jason. You and I sat there together going over some things, and we talked about DeAndre Swift. One of my problems with DeAndre Swift is honestly, he's not as talented as you guys think he is. So those people out there are just like, oh, we just got this super talented running back, this quick guy, this and that. It's like, he's actually not that talented.
He's going to be splitting reps with Jamal Williams. We all know this.
Sure, of course. I mean, that's going to be a thing. My big thing with him still is that he's overrated as a player. Mm-hmm. I've watched enough of him from Georgia, and, as you guys know, I love to scout guys and sit there for hours on end and sip on whiskey and so on. And DeAndre Swift's one of those guys where, I was trying to buy into it, and, I was trying to like him because everyone else did, but I was, trying to give it time. And I would sit there and I'd watch his game clips, and I was, not impressed whatsoever. He's a guy that would fit really well with Denver and some of the scheme that they run offensively. But with the Lions, it's a completely different kind of scheme from what's going to work for a style of runner like he is.
Yeah.
Which I hate when that happens, when certain guys get drafted to the wrong team. And Swift's one of those guys, I think, just got drafted to the wrong team. And you're going to be lucky to see much production out of him, at all, consistently. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, big surprise. The Lions are going to ruin his career just the
Thank
way
you.
that they
Yep.
ruined everybody else's career.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
exactly what
Barry
I'm saying.
Sanders, Calvin Johnson, they like to ruin players.
Almost Matt Stafford.
Yeah, so Tanner, so then let me ask you this one for the T.J. Hawkinson real quick. So last year he had 101 targets, 67 catches, 723 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's respectable numbers, absolutely, for a year 2 tight end, absolutely. So you think those numbers go up or down?
I think they go down this year because you don't have Stafford. Your wide receivers, your wide receivers aren't really good. You have Tyrell Williams as the number 1 right now, right? But Jared Goff is good at forcing the receivers. It's bad, dude.
So bad.
I was looking at it yesterday, but
The
only reason why I don't think he progresses is because of the quarterback play.
So the thing is, then Tanner, those numbers got to go somewhere. Like
I think they.
Tyrell-
I
is
think
Tyrell-
you
is-
end up about the same.
Is Tyrell Williams going to be a 1,000-yard receiver?
No.
I doubt it.
No.
But like, so then what receiver is going to take over the numbers to
But see,
then take up what T.J.
that's what
Hawkinson?
Detroit's going to do. Detroit is going to be a run-heavy team. They're going to go running backs majority of the time and then hit everybody else at the wideouts. He doesn't go to the tight ends.
Oh, the good news is, you guys, both the guys we've been talking about between Swift and Hawkinson have both been a little injured and banged up throughout
They have
preseason.
been.
So
Ankle injuries.
keep that in mind. We have injured bums on the horizon potentially, so something to think about as we move on here.
Correct.
Well, I have a couple of my guys. Two more I just want to throw out real quick. As far as guys, I guess I dislike. We talked about a little bit ago, Jason. Who was it we discussed a little bit ago? We both had an agreement on a couple. Deandre Swift was one of them on the radar. Miles Gaskins is mine, and we talked about that a little bit ago.
Wait.
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's one of mine. He's ranked now 47th on an ADP list, and I'm not a fan
He
whatsoever.
went up to 47.
He's at 47 based on the previous list I just looked at. So maybe mine, I might be outdated a day or two. I'm not sure, but if his ADP is 47 or anywhere even close to there, I'm not touching it.
So here's the reason why I like Miles Gaskin. I've talked with a few people, and there are drafts out there where he is falling into the 80s, 90s, and 100s.
Okay, that's
And
more fair.
if that's the case, I mean, you're going to get huge value out of him, especially if Tua takes a step forward this year. I mean, I like the Miami Dolphins. I think they're going to be a good team this year. So I'll take a good running back on a good team any day. And I think if you can get Gaskin, even around like the 80 to 85 range of ADP, I think that's a great pick. But no, I'm totally with you. I mean, if his ADP is 40, I mean, he's a guy that's nobody's going to reach for him, right?
No.
So to me, I think he's definitely the guy that he's going to be falling in a lot of drafts. And you see him sitting there at like 75, 80, I'm all over Miles Gaskin because he's a good enough player to get me that value.
Yeah, so updated ADP for Yahoo guys, he's at 56.4.
That's
So
a
he
little
is
better.
falling.
It's
That-
a little
that
better,
does
but
help.
not quite. I agree with you, Jason, on the 80s, so.
All right, so let's move on to our sleepers, you guys. We give our overvalued sleepers. To me, are always more fun. For me, number one, Henry Ruggs III. Absolutely.
Right.
I want to demolish this. He is their WR1 right now with the Raiders. His ADP right now is 123, which makes him the wide receiver 50. So he's the 50th ranked wide receiver on all boards, and he's the Raiders number one. Like that's amazing to me. He was also taken, as you guys know, in the top 10 last year in the draft. I think for the thing to me, he's going to be moving more to the inside as a slot, almost like Julio did with Kyle Shanahan, and that came about with the Falcons years ago. And so Ruggs in the slot, I mean, he's going to run shallow crosses up your ass. And so it's going to be phenomenal to see those things unfold with his kind of speed he has. His projections right now, based on his ADP, is 49 catches, 750 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I promise you he will demolish those numbers, and especially in that kind of an offense. He will work better out of the slot than he ever did as an outside receiver. This will absolutely work. I got one more before Russell Gage is another big one for me. Absolutely, he's going to put up good numbers. His ADP is 171. Draft him. I promise you will get good return on your investment. Matt Ryan loves him. But my other one, before I throw it to you, Jason, Hubbard, still from Carolina over there. He's one of my super sleepers.
Chubba.
He's the perfect blend of height, weight, speed. Guys, he ran a 4.36 at the pro day. Are you kidding me? 6 foot tall, 210 pounds, runs a 4.36. Jesus Christ. ADP 164. And if something happens to McCaffrey again, guess who's going to take over? Not Mike Davis, because he's a bum. We're going to take over with Chubba Hubbard.
So right quick before I go, since you mentioned Henry Ruggs, like his ADP is fairly low. He's kind of the opposite of Gaskin, which we talked about earlier. So Ruggs is going up the charts, Gaskin is going down. My question to you, Mike, is do you think that is going to affect the production of Darren Waller this year? Do you think Ruggs is going to be the number one option in that offense, or do you think it's still Waller?
No, I think Waller's still number one option, absolutely. As far as reliable targets, I think, but those as far as explosive playmaker, Ruggs has that written all over him. And I think that receivers sometimes take a year or two to adjust to the NFL. Ruggs is one of those situations. And as far as Darren Wall goes, I think he's still the number one guy. And the thing is, the Raiders don't have enough talent on the receiver end of the thing to where anyone else is going to get that many more targets compared to what Ruggs is capable of. So Ruggs, for his value, absolutely a steal at 50 wide receiver and what was he at 121 right currently. He's going to rise up, but give him time. He's worth the take. I would say this: if you're looking at receivers later in the draft, maybe fill in your WR4 spot. I mean, that's a steal. That's a total steal.
Yeah, it's a steal. And I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind having Ruggs as my WR3. I'll take that any day. But on to my sleepers. So I talked about my overvalued guys of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, which leads me to one of my sleepers, which is Antonio Brown. His ADP is 110 right now. And as I stated earlier, he could very easily move up to maybe the number 2 option in that offense. You just never know. And so if you can get a guy like that at 110, I'd much rather have that than guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. That's my first sleeper. Another one I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry. His ADP is 118, and I don't think I've ever seen Jarvis Landry ranked that low in the ADP.
Yeah.
And we know that Baker Mayfield, he likes him some Odell Beckham Jr., but the chemistry isn't always that great. But bottom line is that's going to be a really good offense. And on this show, we like good players and good offenses. And so if you can get a guy like Jarvis Landry at 118, I'm all over that. That's much better than reaching for a guy like, let's say Amari Cooper at ADP 45.
Well, in your not your ADP, but your expected receiving numbers for PPR situations for Jarvis, a minimum of 70 catches, no matter what. Because for his career, he had the most catches ever in his first 4 years as a receiver, and so even last year with the Browns, it's 72 on less targets. So I think if you give him more targets here in this situation, he still rise up way above that ADP. So that's a good pick, Jason.
Yeah, I like it. I agree. So, all right, guys. Mine is Will Fuller for the Miami Dolphins, ADP at 117. This is a guy that's serving the 1-game suspension, right? So, assuming he stays healthy, he's actually going to be part of this wide receiving core with the Dolphins. I'm not a big fan of Tua. Everybody probably knows, but I think he provides great depth for this team. So an injury concern, of course, is always the issue. But if you look at his stats back in 2020 here with Houston, when he did play, his targets were between usually 5 to 8. A couple games he had 11. His yards were always close to that 50 to 100 mark. And the guy had touchdowns. The guy was always in the game. He was always making plays. If we also look here, last year the Dolphins had only one person break 100 targets. And that was Devontae Parker with 103. So obviously this wide receiving core can't stay healthy. And right now none of them are healthy. They're all hurt.
But they added Jalen Waddle.
Who's hurt. Waddle's hurt. Devontae Parker's hurt. These guys, they're going to be bouncing around all over the place in wide receiver. And if you get this guy around the 117 or later, he's going to be a pretty good depth guy for you in the receiver range. So I'd say look at Will Fuller, guys. Yes, he has that 1-game suspension, but I wouldn't hold it against him here, especially if you get him towards the end of the draft.
Hey, I always say young quarterback's best friend's a tight end. So I think Mike Gesicki would be the guy to keep an eye out too for the Dolphins team.
Yeah. By the way, if all those guys are injured, it's going to be the Gesicki and Myles Gaskin show. That's where all your passes are going to go.
Yeah, very, very, very possible. And Gaskin, for PPR's sake, great point. I think he will put up numbers in PPR for the Dolphins at least. So, but any more sleepers for you guys to throw out to the fantasy world before we do our draft next week?
I don't have any sleepers right now. I do have a comment here on YouTube for fantasy.
What's our comment?
So the Trojan Rose here said, I have the 12th pick in 12-team league, so similar to Jason. He was thinking of 2 of the 3 guys to pick: Eckler, Gibson, Najee, and then usually Ridley Adams Hill is available as well. But he feels he can wait on trying to get Robert Woods as well. So he's trying to think here, who is he going to go with on that 12th pick? And I know you're in the same boat.
So basically, he really wants Robert Woods.
He really wants Robert Woods.
From the understanding.
Correct.
So you have to wait till your second come around. Obviously, you're not taking him.
I wouldn't take him first round.
You're not going to take him 12 or 13. You're going to have to wait for that one. But Jason, you have 12 in our league. What is your theory or thought behind or question?
Are you going running back or are you going receiver?
I mean, this year I think everybody has to go running back heavy first 3 rounds. That's what I'm doing with the 12th overall pick. I like the thought of Robert Woods. I'm actually a Robert Woods guy, and I like him even more this year. If you can get him, I mean, you're going to get that back-to-back pick there in the 4th and 5th round. So, yeah, by all means, I would go with Robert Woods at that spot.
You would go Robert Woods. Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
if that's
okay.
your WR1, if you've gone running back heavy. Yeah. But I will throw out there, if guys like Stephon Diggs or, Tyreek Hill happen to drop into that 12th spot.
Devontae Adams.
Or Devontae Adams, you've got to be willing to go wide receiver with that number 12 overall pick. But outside of that, you got to go running back, and probably running back in the 3rd round.
So you're skipping on a lot of receivers at that point. If you did 3 running backs in a row, I think you're going to be putting yourself in a hard position.
It's just a deep draft, and we've all talked about this before. As far as wide receivers, I mean, they go deep this year. And so, yeah, if I've got Robert Woods as my WR1 and I am stacked with 3 running backs that I can start every single week, I'm good with that.
So which running back would you take, though, at the 12th spot? Would you take Eckler, Gibson, or Najee?
I would go with Eckler, but that's just me. I'm in a full-point PPR this year, and so I like what he brings to the table, especially with Justin Herbert now in his 2nd year. I would go with Eckler, but Najee Harris is going to catch a lot of passes as well. So, I mean, you can't go wrong, honestly, with any of those 3 guys. I'll throw Antonio Gibson in there, but if somebody's holding a gun to my head, I would take Austin Eckler.
And the top 2 there are better receiving backs. Gibson also played a lot of receiver, as a matter of fact, in his college days. But so between him, also and Eckler, those are 2 phenomenal PPR solutions. So if you guys are drafting in a standard league, I think that makes Najee Harris more important because I think you'll see more ground game where Benny Snell might catch more passes for the Steelers. But at the end of the day, for me, if Clyde's there in that spot, I don't care what the projections say, guys. Clyde should be your pick if you're picking at the end of the 1st round. I would go Clyde over Eckler's a good debate, but I'd go Clyde over Gibson or Harris no matter what.
And I agree with you. I had Clyde in the mix the whole time. In fact, I was probably going to draft him in our league until the injury hit.
Right. It's frustrating.
So it's very frustrating, but I don't think it's going to be serious. But you got to ask yourself, okay, am I going to lose his production, week 1, week 2, week 3? Who knows? I mean, I want a guy that's healthy right now that I can plug into my lineup and be able to depend on. And for me, that could be any of those other 3 guys. I can't necessarily depend on Clyde in week 1 and week 2.
So if you take Clyde early, just grab Darrell later, and just make that your handcuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Except for the fact that Darrell is injured as well, so I got a problem with that. But
they'll figure something out. I mean, we have some injury-prone guys across, but Jarrett McKinnon's always injured. Clyde's always injured. We'll just have a Tyreek play running back.
If you
3 Chiefs on the same team.
if you grab one of these guys, just draft. You can get both of their backups. And that reminds me of another sleeper that I didn't mention. A couple of guys. We always like to talk about good running, mediocre running backs on good teams. You got to throw Zach Moss and Devin Singletary out there because
they're going deep.
They have an ADP of 106 and 122. I mean, draft both of them.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're going deep.
Even if you don't like the talent of those 2 players, it's a great fucking team, and you want to get touchdowns if you're in fantasy. So just pick one of them, or you don't have to pick both of them. But
that can be your RB 4 or 5.
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
happy. You're good at that point.
Yep.
So.